Ben,
Jacob,
how you doing?
how are you doing?
I am sorry I am late. I blame Elijah for it. It's always his fault.
Makes sense. Clown is always at fault.
Yeah, he uh, he didn't have actually anything to do with the fact that I'm late, but I can blame him anyway. It's fine.
Okay, let me know if you can hear me well. But
I can
otherwise,
hear you beautifully.
nice, crisp.
Your- Yes, your voice is like honey on molten butter.
Mm. I guess that's why people confuse me sometimes for being a woman when I call them on the phone.
That must be it.
Uh-huh.
People confuse you for a woman
It hasn't happened in a while, but yeah, it did happen.
with that beard.
Well, no, and on the phone. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it happens.
yeah. I always find it funny on Twitter. My Twitter bio. I mean, I just have a normal picture of me with a beard, and my Twitter bio says gender non-conforming.
Mm-hmm.
And like conservatives see my bio and they screenshot it and they put it up, and they're like, "This is so ridiculous." I'm like, "Yes, it is." Joke. Okay, we probably should study some time.
We can do that.
Would you like to go first, or should I go first?
I will go first. And we have the clown here with a
I have no idea what that symbol is.
cat emoji. I think there's a cat in a box.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that is a cat in the box.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Shadow is making fun of you. No, bechavot.
Yalla. Okay. So epistle 3.
Correct.
וילבש צדקה כשריון וכובע ישועה בראשו. And he garbed himself with tzedakah, as with a coat of mail and a helmet of salvation upon his head. Where's this from?
This is from Yeshayahu 59:17.
Yeah, okay. ודרשו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, מה שריון? זה כל קליפה וקליפה מצטרפת לשריון גדול, אף צדקה, כל פרוטה ופרוטה מצטרפת לחשבון גדול. So on this verse, our sages of blessed memory commented, just as with chain mail, with an armor, all the individual scales add up to form a large coat of mail, of a shield. So it is with charity, all the individual coins given to charity add up to a great amount. פירוש שהשריון עשוי קשקשים על נקבים, והם מגינים שלא ייכנס חץ בנקבים, וכך הוא מעשה הצדקה. This means, and this is the additional point being made here, that just as the mail is made of scales covering gaps, and these shield one against any arrow entering through the gaps, so it is with the act of charity. וביאור העניין, כי גדולה הצדקה מכל המצוות. The meaning of this is as follows: charity is greater than all the commandments. שמעין נעשים לבושים להנשמה. For their performance produces garments for the soul. It's the performance of the commandments.
Yeah.
הנמשכים מאור אין סוף ברוך הוא. These garments that are made by the commandments are drawn forth from the infinite light of the blessed Ein Sof. מבחינת סובב כל עלמין. From the level of סובב כל עלמין.
Right. So this is something that is beyond, right? Because it's a coat of mail.
Yeah.
Right. So normal mitzvot, right? You are bringing the bechinat pnimiut, right? From an inner aspect, you are connecting your soul to the Makor HaChaim, right? To God Himself. But tzedakah is called like armor. Why? Mm-hmm. Because it is something that is external. It comes and it covers over you, right? And becomes a garment like a coat of mail, right? And this is מבחינת סובב כל העלמין. This comes from something that is beyond the normal capacity of godliness to be revealed through your body.
Okay, so he's not going to contrast here the commandments being one thing and tzedakah being something else. He's putting them together. They're both create the garments.
No. He's specifically saying tzedakah creates a garment that, like mail, that comes from something which is beyond this world.
Right. Okay.
Right. It's beyond. It's not from mamale. It's from sove.
Okay. כמבואר, הפירוש ממלא כל עלמין וסובב כל עלמין בליקוטי אמרים עיין שם. So the meaning of ממלא and סובב כל עלמין is something we've discussed. You can look at the playlist that Jacob created for this stream, obviously.
I actually have not created a playlist.
Okay. But anyway.
Chatati aviti kashati.
So, yeah. Anyway, okay, I need my ayin here. בהתערתותא דליתתא היא מצוות השם ורצון העליון ברוך הוא. These garments are brought into being by an arousal from below, i.e. the fulfillment of the commands of God and the will of the Supreme Being. Right, by the action itself. בעיקר המשכה הזו מאור אין סוף ברוך הוא לבוש ואור מקיף לעשר יוד ספירות דאצילות בריאה יצירה עשייה. The essence of this efflux from the infinite or efflux, I don't know what the difference is. From the infinite Ein Sof light is a garment and encompassing light for the 10 sfirot of the 4 worlds. Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. המשתלשלות מעילה לעילה ומדרגה למדרגה וכולי, which evolve from cause to cause and from rung to rung. הנקראות בשם ממלא כל עלמין. And these sfirot being referred to as ממלא כל עלמין.
Right. So that's when you do a mitzvah, right? Mm-hmm. You are awakening love for God from below, in that you want to do that which God tells us to do. Mm-hmm. Right? And that is mamshich, or down in a causative fashion, down into the world in a manner of mamala, in a manner in which God's presence is filling the world.
Yeah. Okay. Which is different from what we said about like the Sovev.
This is different from Sovev and different from Tzedakah. Right.
Mm-hmm. פירוש, let's continue. פירוש, כי אור אין סוף ברוך הוא מתלבש ומאיר בתוך כל השתלשלות 10 ספירות, האצילות, בריאה, יצירה, עשייה. This means that the Ein Sof light vasts itself and radiates in an indwelling manner within the entire evolving chain of the 10 sfirot of the world. אצילות, בריאה, יצירה, עשייה. והוא המאציל 10 ספירות דאצילות המשתלשלות לבריאה, יצירה, עשייה. Moreover, it gives rise to the 10 sfirot of the world of Atzilut, which evolve into the subsequent world. על ידי צמצום עצום המבואר בעץ חיים, by means of an immense contraction, צמצום, which is explained in עץ חיים.
ונקרא, by Rabbi Chaim Vital.
ונקרא אור פנימי. This light, or the resultant light, is referred to as an indwelling light, or pnimi. Let's read this. A light that vests itself in an inward manner within created beings, in as much as it is contracted to match the spiritual capacity of the particular created being in which it is clothed. Right. So, I mean, there's a difference between meaning like chai tzomeach domem.
More to the point, like you have your mitzvot and your capacity to fulfill the mitzvot, and so
Hold to that level.
how you fulfill halacha is based on your capacities and who you are as a human being at a particular time doing a mitzvah.
Right. Okay. ועל ידי קיום המצוות נמשך אור מקיף הנזכר לעיל ומאיר תוך 10 ספירות דאצילות בריאה יצירה עשייה ומתייחד עם האור הפנימי. Now, by the fulfillment of the commandments, the above mentioned encompassing light is elicited and radiates within the 10 sefirot of the worlds of Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, thereby uniting with the indwelling light. V'nikra Yechud Kudsha Brichu. So this is referred to as the unification of the Holy One, blessed be He. Blessed be He.
ושכינתה.
שכינתה. Yechud Kudsha Brichu ושכינתה כמו שנתבהר במקום אחר. So this is, so this is the unification of the Holy One, blessed be He, and His Shekhinah, as is explained elsewhere. So the Shekhinah.
So when we talk about Kudsha Brichu and Shechinte, right? Mm-hmm. So Kudsha Brichu is the masculine aspect. Shekhinah is the feminine aspect.
Yeah.
And Kudsha Brichu is that which God is up above, and Shekhinah is how God manifests Himself down below. And when we do mitzvot, we create a unification of God above and His will above, and His manifestations in the world as it is.
Yeah. הוא מהערה דהערה מאור מקיף הנזכר לעיל על ידי צמצום רב. And from a reflection of the above mentioned encompassing light by means of a powerful contraction, נעשה לבוש לבחינות נפש רוח נשמה של האדם בגן עדן התחתון והעליון. A garment is made in the lower and upper gardens of Eden for the soul levels called nefesh ruach neshama of men. שיוכלו ליהנות ולהשיג איזה השגה והערה מאור אינסוף ברוך הוא כמו שמבואר במקום אחר. Enabling them to derive pleasure and attain some apprehension and illumination from the infinite Ein Sof light, as is explained elsewhere. וזה שאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, שכר מצווה באי עלמא ליקה. It's the meaning of the teaching of the sages of blessed memory. In this world, there is no reward for the fulfillment of the commandments.
Yeah. Leika is Aramaic for Ein. Right? Ein schar mitzvah ba'olam hazeh.
Right, there's nothing, one way to interpret this is there is nothing great enough to be a reward for something so profound like a mitzvah. Right, there exists no reward in this world.
I think more to the point, he's saying that this world cannot withstand the true, a true manifestation of what it means to do a mitzvah.
Okay, yeah, that's nicely put. כי בעולם הזה הגשמי הוא בעל גבול וצמצום רב ועצום מאוד מאוד, for in this world which is physical and in a state of limitation, a state of great and most extreme contraction, אי אפשר להתלבש שום מערה מאור אין סוף ברוך הוא. It is impossible that any reflection of the infinite Ein Sof light should become invested, כי אם על ידי 10 ספירות הנקראים גופה בזוהר הקדוש. Except by means of the 10 sefirot, which in the sacred Zohar are referred to as the body. Chesed, Drua, Yamina, Chule. The Sefirah of Chesed is called the supernal right arm. גבורה, severity is called the left arm, and so on. לפי, שכמו שאין ערוך לו להגוף הגשמי לגבי הנשמה, for just as there is no comparison between the physical body and the soul, כך אין ערוך כלל ל10 ספירות האצילות לגבי המאציל העליון אין סוף ברוך הוא. So is there no comparison whatsoever between the 10 ספירות of אצילות and the supreme emanator, the infinite Ein Sof.
We're just by analogy trying to understand the tiny bit, right? And just like the example that the Rosh Rabbi Ezra Shochat gave, which I really love, we talk about the leg of a chair or a leg of a table, right? That doesn't mean that it is in any way comparable to an actual leg of a human being.
Yeah.
But that it is in some manner analogous to it, right? So, Dibra Torah Beloshon Adam, the Torah has to communicate in the language of human beings by analogy, and we use analogies to understand some bit of what it means for godliness. So we understand a little bit of our soul by understanding our body, and by understanding a little bit of the soul, we have a better understanding of the Sfirot, and by understanding the Sfirot, we have a little bit of an understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But obviously, all of these things fail completely to actually capture that which we are trying to explain.
Right. So, כי אפילו חוכמה הילאה שהיא ראשיתן, היא בבחינת עשייה גופנית לגבי אין סוף ברוך הוא, כמו שנתבאר בלקוטי אמרים. For in relation to the Ein Sof, even the supreme chokhmah, wisdom,
Right.
which is the first of the sfirot, is on the plane of material action, as is explained in Likutei Amarim.
Right. Kulam b'chokhmah asita.
והיא לזאת במעשה הצדקה וגמילות חסדים, שאדם אוכל מפירותיהן בעולם הזה. Therefore, through the practice of charity and deeds of kindness, whose fruits man enjoys partially in this world. Partially is inserted here.
Yeah. I mean, miparotehem. He eats from their fruit.
Some of their fruits.
Yeah, he is. He eats from their you could compare it to the interest in capital, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Keren. Yeah. Yeah. I also have a Keren Ishtalmut. יש נקבים על דרך משל, בלבוש העליון המקיף על גופה. הם הכלים ד10 ספירות. There appear, metaphorically speaking, gaps in the supernal garment that envelop the body, which is the vessels of the 10 ספירות. להאיר מהם ולהשפיע אור ושפע. Through these gaps, light and abundance are irradiated and diffused. מחסד דרועה ימינה, אורך ימים בעולם הזה הגשמי. So that from the sphere of chesed, which is the right arm, there results longevity in this physical world. ועושר וכבוד מדרועה שמאלה. And from the left arm, גבורה, there result wealth and honor. וכן בתפארת. And likewise with beauty, תפארת. והוד והדר וחדווה וכולי, and majesty, splendor, gladness, and the rest. אך כדי שלא ינקו החיצונים למעלה מאור ושפע משתלשל ויורד למטה עד העולם הזה הגשמי. However, in order to prevent the forces of evil from drawing on high from the light and abundance which evolves and descends netherward as far down as this physical world, וכן למטה להגין על האדם ולשמרו להצילו מכל דבר רע בגשמיות וברוחניות. And likewise here below, in order to shield man and to guard him and save him from all physical and spiritual harm. לזאת חוזר ומאיר אור המקיף וסותם הנקב על דרך משל. The encompassing light is reflected back and, figuratively speaking, fills the breach. The encompassing light. Right.
Right. So just like a chain of armor, right? You have you're doing the mitzvot, right?
Mhm.
And that creates a sort of a sort of brightness in the world, a revelation of God.
Mhm.
And then you have a ma'aseh tzedakah, which acts in a very different manner, right? In which it acts as a covering over the rest of you, right?
Mhm.
To prevent that which is evil from deriving its life force from the mitzvot that you do, and prevent you from being harmed by the evil that exists in this world.
Mhm. Interesting. It's a very interesting idea. Okay. כי הוא מבחינת אין סוף וסובב כל עלמין כנזכר לעין. For this encompassing light belongs to the category of infinitude and sovev kol almin, as mentioned above. And this is infinitely transcendent degree of light called mekif, is a source from which the forces of evil are unable to derive any sustenance. Okay. וזהו שאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, מצטרפת לחשבון גדול דייקה. And this is what underlies the above quoted teaching of our sages of blessed memory. Just as with chainmail, with a shield, all the individual scales add up to form a large coat of mail. So it is with charity, all the individual coins add up to a great amount. The word great is used advisedly, specifically. כי גדול השם ומהולל מאוד, בלי סוף ותכלית וגבול חס ושלום. In the spirit of the verse, great is God and exceedingly glorified without end, limit, or restriction. Heaven forfend. אך מי הוא הגורם לירידת האור והשפע לעולם הזה הגשמי מ10 ספירות הנקראות גופה? הוא הייחוד הנזכר לעיל. But what causes the descent to this physical world of the light and abundance from a source as lofty as the 10 sfirot of the world of Atzilut, which are referred to as the body? It is the above mentioned union, the kucha שהיא תוספת הערה והשפעה מבחינת אור אין סוף המאציל העליון ברוך הוא. For it is an additional radiance and the effluence from the light of the Ein Sof, the supreme emanator of the 10 sfirot. ביתר שאת על הערה וההשפעה שבתחילת האצילות וההשתלשלות וכו'. In a measure exceeding the radiance and effluence at the beginning of the emanation in the world of Atzilut and subsequent evolution. וראשית, תוספת ההערה וההשפעה היא לראשית 10 ספירות. וזהו וכובע ישועה בראשו. And the additional radiance and affluence is first bestowed upon the Sphira of Chokhmah, which is the first of the 10 Sphirot. This is the meaning of the above quoted phrase, and a helmet of salvation upon his head. Yeshua umilashon vayisha Hashem hevel ve'el minchato. For Yeshua shares a root with vayisha, which is the verb in the phrase, and God turned towards Abel, Cain and Abel, and his gift. Yeshua means turning toward.
There, yeah, when it says Vayisha Hashem El Havel, it means God turns toward Havel.
והוא ירידת האור והשבע, דשין עין, נעורים שבזוהר הקדוש. Yeah. This 870. This alludes to the drawing down of the light and abundance of the Shin Ayin Neorin, the 370 lights spoken of in the Holy Zohar.
I know nothing.
Do you want me to read this thing?
You can?
This light is much loftier than the 10 Sfirot of Atzilut. The letter Shin, whose numerical value is 300, alludes to the three intellectual faculties of Chabad, Chokhmah Bin Adat, and insofar as they exist at the spiritual level termed hundreds, me'ot. The letter Ain, whose numerical value is 70, hints at the 7 emotive attributes, each of which incorporates 10 elements. This lofty illumination of the helmet of salvation is drawn down upon the head, the beginning of the 10 Sfirot. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, like, what's the difference between Keter and Kova? Keter comes in some places before Chokhmah, right? Or it's like this.
Right. Keter comes beyond. Right. This is a Kova. This is, I would say, the first makif, and then Keter is the second makif.
Mm-hmm. וכמו שכתוב, יאר השם פניו אליך. As it is written, may God make his face shine upon you. This is in the priestly blessing. יאר פניו איתנו סלע. It is also written, may he make his face, inner being, shine with us forever. איתנו הוא על ידי מעשה הצדקה. That which ensures that this divine light be with us is the practice of charitable deeds. וזהו זורע צדקות מצמיח ישועות. And this is the meaning of the phrase, he who sows tzedakot, charities, brings forth yeshuot, salvations. Interesting. So the distribution of charity results in salvation. וככה יאר השם פניו אליהם, צדקתם עומדת לעד. So may God make his face shine above you, upon you, and your tzedakah shall endure forever. וקרנם תרום בישועת מצמיח קרן ישועה, צמח צדקה, מהכובע ישועה הנזכר לעיל, כנפש תדרשנו. May your horn, your power be exalted by the salvation of the one who causes the horn of salvation to sprout. By a sprouting of the tzedakah, which God does for his people, from the helmet of salvation mentioned above, as is the wish of one who seeks him.
Yeah.
So this is a letter for the community, talking about the letter to the community, talking about tzedakah and its power. And
right, that it has a specific and special power that comes, that is magan, that is how do you say hagana? Defends. Right? That specifically defends us because it comes from something external to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he would explain more, but I think he'll explain more in the next letters why specifically tzedakah is something that is external, mail, helmet, shields.
He was in Europe, so I mean,
I mean, this is back during the Napoleonic Wars, so they were not wearing mail that time, I don't think. But, yeah.
I was also hoping that he will explain it a little bit more because it's interesting.
I think he will. The letters are not arranged randomly.
I'm curious. When we need to go, also let me know. But I'm curious.
No, I have to. I definitely have to go by 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tzedakah is interesting because the Shabbat lights you the tzedakah, and like every time you pray, like any propitious time, it's like propitious time. you put tzedakah, like it's like it's like it's interesting. I don't know.
Tzedakah, I mean, he spends a lot of time in his epistles, especially, partially because he was using them to raise money, but for tzedakah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, tzedakah is something. It is like Talmud Torah. It's one of those mitzvot that is considered keneged kulam. It's and ein lo shiur and insert. Yeah.
In Yom Kippur, what do you say, or in other places? I don't know.
Something. Tzedakah ma'avirin et ra ha'gezerah.
Right.
Tefillah, Torah, tefillah. No, teshuva, Torah, tefillah, and teshuva. No. Tzedakah. Now, I'm not Ashkenazi. Why do you expect me to know?
Oh, it's Ashkenazi?
It is, yeah.
Well, it's Chabad, though, so I guess. Because I've heard it. If I've heard it, it's from Chabad.
Ma'avirin Roa. Teshuva utefila utzedaka ma'avirin et ra hagezerah.
Right. I guess that also. I guess that's also the Pirkei Avot. Like those are the three. Oh no! Wait, I need to look at it again.
They're pretty important. I mean, let's like, yeah, not.
They're legit.
They're legit. Yes, they're legit. They tzedakah can. I mean, so the Talmud says there are three midot that if a person doesn't have them, we doubt whether he's actually Jewish. Baishanim Rachmanim v'gom lechasadim. That he's shameless, that he is cruel, and that he doesn't do acts of kindness.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I was also right in terms of the Pirkei Avot. Yeah, that's the second Mishnah, which is like it says the three things the world stands on. It's Torah, Avodah, Tefillah, ve'al gemilut chasadim, acts of kindness.
Yeah. Look, it's important. What can I say?
I think we've established that.
Yeah. Okay. Weiter. Ein Israel niga'alin ela b'tzedakah, shne'emar v'shaveha b'tzedakah. So, as our rabbis say, that Israel shall not be redeemed. Apparently this is actually a halacha brought by Rambam in Hilchot Matanot Aniyim, right? That the redemption shall only come through the virtue of tzedakah, like it says, v'shaveha b'tzedakah. Her captives shall be brought back through tzedakah. Ketiv tzedek lefanav yehalech. It says that tzedek, right, righteousness, but obviously that's connected to tzedakah, goes before God. Hava le'meimar yelech, right? It says yahalech. It says makes it go, right? As opposed to goes, right? Tzedek doesn't go before God. It makes it possible to go before God. Al pi ma shekatuv lecha amar libi bakshul panai. This concept may be understood by considering the verse, on your behalf, lecha amar, my heart says, seek my face. This is from Psalms 27:8. Okay. As Rashi explains it, the simple meaning of the verse is that on your behalf and as your messenger, my heart tells me to seek out your face, God's inwardness or innermost essence. For the word panim is related to both meaning meanings face and interior. In this spirit, the verse concludes, your countenance, God, do I seek, and I am indeed doing so. I am seeking your countenance. However, if panai does in fact refer to God's countenance and inwardness, why would it be necessary to conclude, your countenance, God, do I seek? Surely it would suffice to say, your countenance do I seek, since we have already been informed that we're speaking of God's countenance. The Alter Rebbe therefore explains that the word panai, my face, refers to the inwardness of the Jewish heart, while panecha refers to the inwardness of God. Livi bakshu panai. Right. So it's not God speaking in this understanding. It's that we are speaking about our own inner aspect. Perush. Bakshu pnimit halev. This means that man is being urged to seek the inwardness of the heart, the hidden element within his own heart that must be sought after if it is to be revealed. Ki hine belahav yesod ha'esh ha'elokit shebalev. For in the flame of the element of the divine fire that is in the heart, within the soul's ardent love of God, which derives from the element of fire within the soul, as mentioned in the Tanya, part 1, chapter 3. Ki hine belahav yesod ha'esh ha'elokit shebalev. Or there's a different nusach of this hine behalev yesod ha'esh ha'elokit shebalev. In a different reading of this letter, we have a different girsa. I didn't realize there were different girsot of the letters, but I guess there are. That in the heart, the element of divine fire within them.
Just changing the letters, like lahav and halev.
Yesod ha'esh.
Right, the letter lamed is either in the beginning or in the middle. Be lahav bahalev.
Oh, behalev. I see. Okay. Very slight difference. Okay. Yesh shnei bechinot. There are two aspects. Bechinat chitzoniut ubechinat pnimiut. That which is inward and that which is outward. Chitzoniut halev, the outward aspect of the heart. He hitlahavut hamitlahevet mibechinat habina v'hadaat begedulat Hashem ein sof baruch hu. That's when your love of God flares from an intellectual arousal towards God. Lehitbonen begedulato ulaholid mitvuna zo ahava aza kerishve esh v'chulu. Right? That a person thinks of God and awakens in himself an understanding and a love for God like a fire. But the inner aspect of the heart, that comes from the depths of the heart. Which is much greater than anything any sort of intellectual knowing that a person can awaken in himself. Right? That I called upon you from the depths of my heart. So, as an example, right, an analogy, when we talk about worldly matters, לפעמים יש עניין גדול מאוד מאוד שכל חיות האדם תלוי בו ונוגע עד נקודת פנימיות הלב ועד בכלל. right? There are sometimes great matters that are very important to a person, right? וגורם לו לפעמים לעשות מעשים ולדבר דברים שלא בדעת כלל. That he starts talking, he starts saying things or doing things which are beyond any logic or reason. וזה לעומת זה, right? And so one thing corresponding to the other, where we were talking about worldly matters, now we're talking about spiritual matters. ככה הוא ממש בעבודת שבלב. Similarly, in the service of the heart, sometimes a person's love of God completely overwhelms that which is intellectual.
So that's the pnimiut.
Yeah.
Okay.
והיינו, right? לפי שבחינת נקודת פנימית הלב היא למעלה מבחינת הדעת המתפשט ומתלבש במידות שנולדו מחוכמה בינה דעת כנודע, right? And so this inner aspect, which is instinctual, comes from a source that transcends that which can vest itself from the emotive aspects from the intellectual. רק היא בחינת הארת חוכמה עליונה שלמעלה מהבינה והדעת, right? That it is something that is drawing down, right? Rather, the pnimiut of the heart is an aspect of the radiance from the supreme chokhmah, which transcends bina and dat. Right? The pnimiut.
So, מבחינת הדעת, אני חושב רק היא מבחינת...
That's I don't understand the translation that they say it's the pnimiut of the heart, which is from is an aspect of the radiance of the supreme
Chokhmah.
Oh, okay, so it's not okay. So the pnimit comes from God's chokhmah, not the person's chokhmah himself.
Yeah, it transcends the chokhmah bina dat.
Of the person, yeah.
Of the person,
yeah. Uba melubash v'ganuz or Hashem mamash. Right? This is something that comes from God Himself. Kamosh katuv Hashem b'chokhmah v'chulu, right? B'chokhmah yasad haaretz, I believe the rest of the verses. V'hi bechinat nitzotz elokut shebachol nefesh me'Yisrael. Right? And so that is that spark of divinity that is implanted in every Jew. Right? And the reason why not everybody actually lives up to this. Right? That he truly loves God from the depths of his heart. היינו לפי שבחינה זו היא אצלו בבחינת גלות ושוויון, right? It's because when that aspect exists in him in a manner of exile and captivity. Right. Galut hashchina mamash. And this is what we refer to when we talk about the exile of the Shekhinah. כי היא בחינת ניצוץ אלוקות שבנפשו האלוקית. Right? That is the divine spark that is within his divine soul.
Right. So not everybody merits or are able to get to a point where their love of God
is revealed.
Is revealed in a pnimiut fashion, is beyond their intellectual understanding and interaction with that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about analogies here. I mean, I don't think I have a good one, but I mean, like, I'm just trying to think like in a business.
Well, okay, so like in business, right? Well, let's not talk about necessary. Like, let's say your house is on fire, right? And you run in to save something that is incredibly dear to you. even though that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's not something that is a manifestation of you thinking about whether it's a good idea or not a good idea. It's just something that is animates you from your emotions and your desires.
Yeah, I like actually thinking about a slightly different angle in terms of, so if you work at let's say a business, a very small company, you can, let's say, work with the people that build the stuff, like with the team that builds the product, and you're involved in that, and by building the product, you also you create the vision, you manifest the vision of the company and the founder, right? But then a select few get to actually talk to the founder themselves, the visionary, and and when you sit in the room with the visionary, you get a much more, it's like a more, like you get a more vivid understanding of like the what you're trying to do, and it's kind of like a more, like it's a more.
Right. I hear you. I have to think about this analogy more because it's I'm not sure that's the analogy he's making in terms of the inner aspect of the emotions and the outer aspect of the emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he's talking about the outer aspect of the emotions is that which emotionally is awoken by your mental faculties, right? You think about the greatness of God and you awaken in yourself a love of God.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But there's also a love of God which comes not from any sort of intellectual enterprise, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that is ma'um kadaliva.
Yeah.
Now, some people, unfortunately, that isn't revealed in them because their soul is in exile within them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds familiar, connected to things we discussed in the past.
Vesibat hagalut, and the reason why is it is in exile. Hu ma'amar Rabbeinu Zechron Levracha galu lebavel shchina imay. The reason for that is it says the sages said when the Jewish people went into exile, the Shekhinah went with them. In terms of the individual sparks of the soul, this means that when a spark is in a state of Babylon, when an individual acts in a Babylonian manner, then the Shekhinah is in exile together with him. The Shekhinah doesn't depart from him, but goes into this darkness with him. דהיינו, מפני שהלביש בחינת פנימית נקודת לבבו בזה לעומת זה. That God have mercy, he has been vested into that which is opposing to holiness. דהיינו בלבושים צועים דמילי דעלמא ותאוות עולם הזה, הנקרא בשם בבל, right? Namely in the soul of the garments, mundane matters and worldly desires, which are known as Babylon. והיא בחינת עורלה המכסה על הברית ונקודה הפנימית של הלב. That is a foreskin which is hiding the covenant and the innermost point of the heart. ועל זה נאמר ומלתם את עורלת לבבכם, and that's what it means that you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart, right? והנה במילה יש שני בחינות. When we talk about circumcision, we have two stages, mila upriya, right? There's the actual mila, which is cutting off the foreskin itself, and priya, which is uncovering the thin membrane below it. Shehen orla gasa klipa daka, right? That there is the coarse foreskin and the thin membrane. וכן בעורלת הלב יש גם כן תאוות גסות ודקות. Similarly, when we talk about a person's heart, there are those things which are a coarse membrane and those things which are more subtle membrane, corresponding to the two types of skin. Mila upriya. Umal velo para ki'ilu lo mal. And we have a rule that someone who does circumcision of the foreskin, but not the thin membrane. I don't know the exact things of this. I've never circumcised anybody myself. It's not considered a milah. מפני שסוף סוף עדיין נקודת פנימית הלב היא מכוסה בלבוש שק דק, that even though there has been some cutting off of the membrane, it's still being covered. בבחינת גלות ושביה, right? It's still in a, it is still captive and an exile. והנה, על מילת העורלה ממש כתיב, ומלתם את עורלת לבבכם, אתם בעצמכם. Now, it actually says you should circumcise your hearts, right? The foreskin of your hearts, which implies that you should do it yourself, right? Ach lahasir haklipa hadaka, zehu davar hakasha al ha'adam. But to take the thin membrane, right? You can that part is something that a person can't do themselves. ועל זה נאמר בביאת המשיח, ומל השם אלוקיך את לבבך. Right? And that's why it says when the Messiah will come, that God will circumcise your heart. ואהבה את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך למען חייך. Right? You shall completely love God, so for the sake of your life. כלומר, למען כי השם לבדו הוא כל חייך ממש. Right? There, because then it shall be clear to you that everything in your life belongs only to God. שלכן אהבה זו היא מעומקא דליבה, מנקודה פנימית ממש, כנזכר לעיל, ולמעלה מבחינת הדעת, right? In that manner that you shall actually want to do that which is godly, and you don't just do it because you realize that it's the right thing to do and your brain has told your heart to do it, but because you actually love God. ולכן משיח בא בהיסח דעת לכללות ישראל, right? So one of the things it says is that a Mashiach is going to come בהיסח דעת. This is in Sanhedrin 97a, right? It's like, it's when people aren't paying attention. What does it mean that they aren't paying attention? That they aren't thinking, that it's not a matter of thought, right? Vehi gilui b'chinat nekuda pnimit haklalit, right? It is that which reveals the innermost aspect or point, right? V'yetziat hashchina haklalit mehagalut v'hashivya la'ad l'nei olamim, right? That's when the Shekhinah is going to be completely removed from exile and captivity forever, in that it will be revealed without there being any intellectual awareness of it. V'chen kol nitzotz pratei mahashchina shebenefesh kol echad me'Yisrael. Similarly, every particular spark of the Shekhinah inherent in the soul of every individual Jew. Halochazi. יוצאת מהגלות והשביה לפי שעה. Emerges from the moment from exile and captivity, בחיי שעה, זאת תפילה. Right? So when you pray to God, you awaken in yourself a love of God that is temporary and doesn't completely last when you go out into the rest of the world. ועבודה שבלב מעומקא דליבה, מבחינת נקודת הפנימית והנגלית מהעורלה, during the service of his heart, from the depth of his heart, from the innermost point, which becomes divested of the concealing foreskin, ועולה למעלה, לדבקה בו עזה, right? You truly have awakened and reveal a love of God in yourself. בבחינת למען חייך, in the spirit of the phrase, for the sake of your life. והוא גם כן בחינת הסח הדעת האדם. And that's also without that, it's being absent-minded. It's not coming from merely an intellectual level. כי בחינת זו היא למעלה מדעת האדם והתבוננות בגדולת השם. Because this love of God is beyond a person's contemplation and meditation of God. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I'm just curious about like sechdat, like the distraction.
Mm-hmm.
It says the Shekhinah, the Mashiach, would come in a state of distraction, or when people are in the state of distraction.
Right.
Does that mean when they do not contemplate, when they do not understand beyond the intellectual, what
it means? So
why in distraction? The other thing that I'm thinking of might be irrelevant, but like if it's in distraction, so what's the point of like why are we? Why do we say ask for Mashiach to come, or maybe he'll come tomorrow? Like, yeah.
So okay, so he's that's why he talks about the two parts of milah, right?
Okay.
There's taking off the coarse skin, and there's taking off that which is the more finer thing. And he analogizes that to the capacity of a person when they're praying to actually be thinking about God and loving God and being completely unified with God in an emotional aspect, right? But when you go around the rest of your life, that's not something that's revealed, right? That's not something that you're constantly being connected to God, right? So that is because there hasn't been a complete circumcision of your heart, which will only come when Mashiach comes, right? And he says Mashiach will come behesach da'at, right? Mashiach will come when, I mean, there will also be da'at, the Yamalet Haaretz da'at, right? But the love of God will not be dependent on your thought. Right? It will be something that will be just complete and at all times, right? Which is not true in the state of Galut that we are right now. Verstehst?
Yeah, and I guess it also connected the idea of the Brit being done on a baby as opposed to on an adult. Right, because when you're a baby, you can't. It's not a decision. It's not an intellectual decision that you make that I want to join this covenant. Like
right. I mean, yeah, to some extent, although obviously both parts are necessary.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to both come from the external aspect and also has to come from you. And that this is one of the things that he says, right? You should do milah, but there's also a part where God does it.
Mm-hmm.
רק היא בחינת מתנה נתונה מאת השם מן השמיים. It is a gift that is given from God. מהארת בחינת פנים העליונים. Right? It comes from a supernal countenance. Jewish Baptists hold to believers' circumcision, Elijah says. Maharat bechinat panim ha'elyonim, right? It comes from God Himself. Kamosh katuv ya'er Hashem panav alecha, like it says, God should make His countenance shine upon you. Kamosh katuv umal Hashem elokecha, God will circumcise. Ach mudat zot, but we know that ki itaruta de leila, he beitaruta de latata davka. We know that arousal from above, and this is what makes us not Calvinists, right? Is that we believe an arousal from above is in response to an arousal from below.
Well, like we have, depended on us.
Yeah. Bebechinat ha'alat amayin nukvin, right? You bring up the feminine waters. Kamosh amru rabotenu zechron v'racha. Ein tipa yoredet milamala, right? It says that no rain comes from above until there are two corresponding drops ascending from below.
Yeah, is this from Tanit? Tanis?
Tinus.
Tinus?
It is from.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I see you're studying Talmud. How dare you?
No, but it's funny that it connects, like, because this is exactly what we're looking at.
It all connects. It's all one Torah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So a person needs to do this type of circumcision on himself. Lahasir or lat halev klipa hagasa v'daka. Right? To take off the coarse and thin husks of the klipa. Malbishot umachasot al b'chinat nekudat pnimit alev, right? Which is removing the innermost part of His love of God. Shehi b'chinat ahavat Hashem, which is the love of God. Bechinat lama'an chayecha, that relates to the for the sake of your life, a love that springs from an awareness that godliness is the person's entire life. Shehi bagalut beta'avot ha'olam hazeh, right? That is in exile in the desires of this world. Shehem gam ken bechinat lama'an chayecha. These physical desires also exist in the spirit of the phrase, for the sake of your life. Like we have explained that everything was created with its mirror image, its mirror counterpart. So there's the holiness and there's that which is the counterpart of holiness. V'hayinu al yedei netinat tzedakah la'Hashem mimomano, shahu chayuto. Right? And this is done by giving tzedakah, right? Because you take from that which is yours and you give to God, right? So you're giving an aspect of your own vitality in your life. Ubifrat mi shemazonotav metzumtzamim. Specifically, someone who doesn't have so much, and he's taking udichika le sha'ata tova, right? And it's he's hard pressed at that time, or the time is difficult for him. Shenoten mechayav mamash. He's actually giving from that which really affects him in his life. specifically if he's the type of person who has to work for a living. שאי אפשר שלא עסק בהם פעמים רבות מבחינת נקודת פנימית הלב מעומקא דליבה. Right? Because it's impossible that he was not involved in earning that money from the most inner parts of his heart. כמנהג העולם בעסקיהם במשא ומתן וכהי גבנה. Right? Like normal people, the whole when they're involved in whatever their work is, they get involved in it. V'harei ata hapam shemafazeh mi'igio. Right? Now that he's actually spending that which he has earned, v'noten la'Hashem b'simcha u'v'tuv lavav. He gladly gives to God from this money that he has earned. Hine bazeh podeh nafsho mishachat. He is redeeming his soul from destruction. Dahainu bechinat nekudat pnimit lavavo. That is, he redeems the innermost point of his heart. Shahayta bebechinat galut v'shivya betoch haklipa gasa odaka. That was in exile. Like it says, guard your heart in Proverbs with the greatest vigilance. Mishmar perush beit ha'asurim. So when it says mishmar, it means a prison. Guard your heart from every mishmar. Mikol mishmar netzor, from every prison, keep your right heart. Va'ata nifdei mehachitzoniut b'tzedakah. Right? Because when he was working, he got very involved in the work that he was doing. Right? And now that he takes that money that he earned from it and he gives to godliness, he's in fact redeeming that which was invested into the worldliness in that manner. וזה גם כן לשון פריאה, עניין פריאת חוב. Right? So when we talk about priya, which is the, one of the two stages of circumcision, right? You can talk about priat chov. It has the same language of removing a debt. Shenitchayav v'nishtabed lahitzonim shemashlu bo al nekudat pnimit levavo. Right? So just as when someone has a debt that is canceled, right? He was in effect being subjugated, right, to that debt. In a similar manner, he's removing that subjugation of his heart to worldliness. Vezehu v'shaveha b'tzedakah. That's what it means that the captives are redeemed with tzedakah. Vezehu tzedek lefanav yehalech. And that's what it means when it says that tzedek causes to go before him. Lefanav hu milashon pnimiut. Before him is inwardness. Ve'yehalech hu milashon halacha. And causes to go comes from a root of bringing.
Yeah.
Shemolich et pnimit halev laHashem. That he brings that which is the inner aspect of the heart to God.
So tzedakah connects to the pnimiyut, is what he's saying, and like
it brings forth, it brings forth the pnimiyut, because mahalach, because when he was working he got wrapped up in earning money, right? And so he's taking that which was involved in worldly matters and he's bringing it towards godliness. Got it? ואחר כך ישים לדרך השם פעמיו. Then he sets his steps towards the way of God, כמו שכתוב, והלכו בדרכיו, הלכתי בדרכיו, you should walk in his ways, אחרי השם אלוקיך תלכו, you should walk after the Lord your God, right? בכל מעשה המצוות ותלמוד תורה כנגד כולם, with every commandment and the study of Torah is equivalent to all of them. שכולם עולים להשם על ידי פנימית הלב. Like we explained before, right? What all of these things are brought before God only when a person's heart is in it, and it is included that his emotional investment. ביתר שאת ומעלה מעלייתן להשם על ידי חיצוניות הלב. That goes so much more intensely and above than through the external parts of the heart. הנולד מהתבונה והדעת לבדן, that comes from an intellectual investment. בלי הארת פנים מלמעלה אלא בבחינת הסתר פנים. Right, the inner aspect only illuminates in a manner of hiding, because it's not for an emotional reaction. כי אין הפנים העליונים מאירים למטה אלא בהתערותא דלתתא. במעשה הצדקה הנקרא שלום. For the supernal countenance does not radiate downward except through an arousal initiated from below, through an act of charity being called peace. Right? And this is one of the reasons we give tzedakah right before we say our prayers. וזהו שכתוב פדה בשלום נפשי. And it says he redeems my soul in peace. Right, which is through tzedakah. Nafshi daika, my soul, exactly, is in as much as it refers to the Shekhinah found in the soul of every Jew, for the divine spark that vitalizes the soul of every Jew, redeemed through peace, through tzedakah. V'zehu gam ken hata'am shenikrat hatzedakah shalom, and that's the reason why tzedakah is called peace. Because it makes peace between us and our Father who is in heaven. Like the sages tell us, through the redemption of their souls, which are truly a part of God, from the grip of the forces of evil. Ubifrat tzidkat eretz Israel. And this is most specifically so when we talk about giving charity to the land of Israel.
This is what he did, right? I love it.
What do you mean?
Alter Rebbe.
Yeah, so he started, so it's usually called Kupat Rebbe Meir Baal Nes. It wasn't just the Alter Rebbe, but lots of people, I mean, throughout the generations, frankly, this is one of the ways you can understand the early missions of Paul in Christianity, was the Jewish community always, throughout the generations, they would send money to the poor people, and especially a lot of widows and elderly people would move to Eretz Israel, right? And the communities would send money to those people who were in the land of Israel. And the Alter Rebbe, the oldest continuous charitable organization, is Kolel Chabad in Jerusalem, which the Alter Rebbe established to send money for people who learn Torah in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I also learned that there was like the Jewish community in the land of Israel would send an emissary, somebody distinguished. So I know the Chida was one of them. At some point.
Yeah, they would send meshulachim. They would send people to collect. To this day, people send to ask for money around the world for Yeshuv Haaretz. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Shahid Tzidkat Hashem Mamash, because that is truly charity of God. Kamosh Katuv Tamid Einei Hashem Elokecha Ba. It says regarding the land of Israel that God's eyes are always upon it. Lahayu Einai Velibi Sham Kol Hayamim. It says, my eyes and my heart are there. 1 Kings 9:3. At all times. Vehi she'amda lanu liftot haye nafshenu me'atzat hachoshvim litchot pa'amenu. It is this charity of the Holy Land that has stood by us to redeem the life of our souls from the counsel of those who seek to repel our steps. V'ta'amod lanu la'ad, and you shall stand for us forever. Lasum nafshenu b'chayim amitim mechayeh hachayim, to set our souls in the true life of the fountainhead of life. La'or be'or hachayim, enlightened with the light of life. Asher ya'er Hashem panav itanu sela, that God shall make His countenance radiant upon us. Sela, amen, ken yehi ratzon.
Nice.
Very nice.
Okay, so yeah, tzedakah is something special.
It is something special. It's important, and specifically, so while there are laws, you should give to your own family first before you give to others. You should give to people who live in your city first before you give to others. You should give concentric circles of greater responsibility, right? At the same time, you should always specifically keep the aniim, the poor of Jerusalem and the land of Israel in mind as well. Like Chazi.
Well, he fits maybe some of those descriptions.
Look, he may not be physically poor, but he's a Zionist, so he's spiritually poor.
He's a great guy.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I love him dearly. Sometimes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think I have anything else.
I don't think I have anything else either, and I better go and do stuff. Thank you very much. We will continue this next week. Yeah, we can do next week. Yeah, it'll be good.
Sounds good. All right, thank you.
Be well.